Welcome to the McKinley Diaries, 21 years on with myself, Nigel Vardy. We're now on day 10, the 9th of May, 1999. My alarm rang at 06:45 and I lay in bed thinking of the day ahead. The Couloir has finally come. We are going to climb. However, morning brews have to be done. And when you're cooking at sea level in your own home, you'll realise how fast you can boil a kettle of water. It's a very different thing on a mountain. We used to fire the stove up, a little petrol stove, an hour before we wanted 1 litre of water boiled. It took an hour to boil and it roared like there was no tomorrow. You think the tent would be roasting hot, it's still freezing. And you're having to lie in your bed with going for an hour basically for 1 pan of water. So we always used to get up as early as we can, start that and try and sleep. It didn't work very well. However, we decided we had to get cracking. We needed to climb this Couloir, but it was again mid-morning before we started doing anything, getting the gear ready. And by the time we'd walked to the base of the gully, it was 1 p.m, which is ridiculous. Anyway, we had to do it. We looked up at the mass of snow and ice. It looked reasonably easy graded, it wasn't actually a bad route technically at all, but a lot longer than we thought. Again, when you look at these things, you think, oh, 3 or 4 hours, and 5 hours later you think, why are we still only halfway up? We guessed about 2 to 3. It took 6. The views were spectacular. The South Buttress was rising behind us, towering in fluted ice and snow. And our intention was to get to about 13,000 feet and bury gear, go back, sleep again, come back up the next day. But there was very little chance of reaching 13,000. There was just no way with the energy we had, the time we had and whatever else. But we got up as high as we could. And then suddenly a very steady southwesterly wind started to pick up and run spindrift up and down the Couloir. And well, that's never a good place to be at altitude. So I'd got a lot of stores on board, as we all had, and lots of fuel. So it was time to stash it, basically, get as high as we could, stash it, get back down to camp, and then repeat it the next day, bringing the camp up with us. The tents looked absolutely tiny, over 2,000 feet below us, just little black dots in a whiteout. And the previous route over the glaciers and the crevasse field now became very, very obvious. And it must be so easy to see, why don't you go that way when you're looking on high? When you're actually up to your neck in crevasses and you can only see a few feet, you don't have that choice. But time was against us. We were getting cold and we decided to bury the cash and make good our escape. And we found a reasonable sized rock shelf, bashed the snow out and found a big nylon rope there, a yellow nylon rope, which I can only assume had been left from a rescue or something the years before. Anyway, it gave us something to tie the kit to, and we buried it all, put a little wand in and started to descend. And it was getting really bitterly cold now, so I put my down jacket on, hoods up, goggles on, and keep, the majority of the weather off me. The descent was very slow, and we actually didn't start descending till 9 o'clock at night. Crikey. Very slow progress, retracing our steps down the gully for the next 3 hours. And my feet were aching from consistent front pointing, hour after hour after hour, but at least I was warmer. It seems my spirits were surprisingly low. That surprised me. I thought I might be better. But anyway, we were all pretty tired. Tony, Steve and myself were all physically and mentally drained. But, we had to get back to camp. We hadn't eaten little all day, so we did cup of soup and pâté and crackers, apparently, before drifting off to a very, very exhausted, deep sleep.